Hello, everyone. I'm Margot Kennedy, and this is Christy Brock, and we are WeCRE. We invest in commercial real estate. Thanks for joining our webinar to talk about our underwriting changes to the Access Mead deal based on our due diligence period. At WeCRE, we're deeply committed to transparency, not just during the acquisition and due diligence process, but throughout the entire life cycle of your investment. We know that trust is built through clear communication, consistent updates, and a commitment to doing what we say we'll do. That's why we're taking a moment today to walk you through the updates we've made to our underwriting based on what we've uncovered during the due diligence. These changes reflect our conservative approach, our attention to detail, and our promise to keep you informed every step of the way. Christy?
Okay, so as Margot mentioned, we are going to be discussing our Access Mead. And Margot, tell us our disclaimer real quick.
So this is not an offer to invest. You've seen our confidentiality and disclaimer policy here, and you can read it with this webinar, but it is not an offer to invest. For that, you need to consult the private placement addendum and the disclosure for the particular deal. You've seen this before as well. You know quite a bit about us, but this is a little summary of our backgrounds.
And feel free to read it later.
Yep.
So let's get into the changes that we are making to our underwriting as a result of our due diligence period. Since our original underwriting, we've had a few important changes that we'd like to disclose. The first thing is the property that we're buying has a cell phone tower lease, and it is a lease that is scheduled to end in 2077. Yes, you heard me right, 2077. There are escalations within the lease, but the important thing is one clause within the lease says if the property is being sold, the leasee has the right to buy out the lease into a perpetual lease. And the sale of this property has triggered that. So, on our behalf, the current owner, and again, that part of the lease was entered into contract not by the current owner, but the owner prior to him in 2009. The current owner purchased in 2014, I believe it was. So he negotiated on our behalf to get us a credit. It's a little more than a $250,000 credit. So we'll go and in the underwriting, I'll show you exactly how that affects our underwriting, but it's a material change to the property that we're buying because it does decrease our annual income, but it also gives us a $250,000 closing credit. So that's one of the changes that we wanted to let you know about. Another change, as a result, we've revised our other income category. When we did our initial underwriting, we were extremely conservative when we barely included any additional other income. It was primarily the cell phone tower lease and maybe $2,000 or $3,000 of other income. We've revised that to 2% of rental income, which is an extremely conservative number. Another property that we operate runs typically at about 20% of income. And so, us at 2% on this property, we feel very comfortable using that as our year one number. And when we get to year two, after owning this property for a full year, we will adjust our underwriting because that's what makes sense. And we'll see how things happen. But for right now, we've revised our other income to 2%. It works out to $8,000 or $9,000 per year. Insurance. When we first underwrote this property, we put in 15,000 as our insurance number. The current seller was paying about $5,000 a year, and we thought, well, insurance rates are definitely going up. Let's be conservative until we get our bids. We got 3 bids. Our best bid, which includes replacement costs, came in under $8,000. So now we've put the actual number, which is 7,900 and change, into our underwriting. So that's an important change that we've made. One of the most important changes that I feel that we made to our underwriting is adjusting our inflation rates. Typically, when you're underwriting, you just say, oh, 3% annual inflation rates. And while that may have been a good way to do it in the past, historically, over the past few years, certain categories have adjusted wildly and unpredictably. And we'd rather go high and, have to bring our numbers down than go low and be short or surprised. Some of those categories are utilities. We're adjusting utilities at 5% instead of 3%. We're adjusting insurance at 15%, just because we don't want any surprises. Insurance rates in some parts of the country and on some asset classes are going up 20, 50%. It's not happening so much for self-storage, and particularly not in this part of the country. But again, better to be more conservative. And lastly, property taxes. Historically, property taxes in the area have been adjusting at 5 to 10%. There won't be another true assessment where an appraiser comes out and looks around and says, hey, this is what's different until 2028. But in the meanwhile, we're going to make 15% adjustments and build that into our numbers. Among the reasons we can do this, we can afford to do this, is because this property is cash flowing very well. We're buying a great asset. There's enough cash to be very conservative with our numbers. So let's talk briefly about the underwriting and how some of these changes hit our underwriting. Other income previously, as I said, including the cell phone tower, it was at almost 19,000. We have insurance here, which was previously at 15,000, and property taxes. Here it's 25,000, and this was increasing at 3% per year. And this is what we said, that it doesn't make sense. Let's revise that. So on our revised underwriting, we have other income just under 9,000, which gives our effective income in year one projected at 400,072 and 699. So how does that compare? It's a smidgen off from where it was. It was at 482,700 and it's going to 472,700. Not a big difference at all. Again, when we go to our insurance, we have our actual number in here, which is just under 8,000 and creeping up at 15%. And then we have our taxes. Based on 2024 taxes, we've got 25,000, just under 25,000. And then here you have these 15% jumps. What's the overall change here for us? Well, prior to making these changes, we had NOI in year one at 335,000. You can see that 335,107. After making these changes, we're at 332, almost 333,000. The change is negligible for our perspective. It's not, but these are material things that we learn during the due diligence process. So we need to update you. This is not a step that a lot of sponsors do, but we do feel it's very important. If you are already on board with us, great. If not, just want to remind you really quickly that we have Class A shares paying a 7% pref, and that will start after our first 3 full months of ownership. We anticipate closing in July. So if we close mid-July, so that will be August, September, October, our first 3 months. That means November, by November 27th, by Thanksgiving, you'll receive your first distribution. That's our projection. Class A has a $50,000 minimum, and we have a target average annualized of 20%. We're planning on a 5-year hold. Class B shares, 10% pref, 22% average annualized, $100,000 minimum. And for those who are really looking for a tremendous amount of cash flow, we have our Class F, which has a 12% pref, a 24% average annualized target, and a $250,000 minimum. If you're not familiar with how we structure our deals, we take the back end risk. All the cash is going for your pref. So you're getting your pref. Once you're hitting your pref, then we take the cash after that. Once we have our exit, which is either a refinance or a sale at 5 years, you get your target average annualized for your class, and then we get paid after that. So adjustments that happen to cash flow and other things, you're getting your pref first, you're getting your target average annualized first. And hey, if you're happy with a 20, 22, or 24% average annualized return, I think this is a good deal for you. If you're not, there's lots of other deals out there for you. How to invest. The next step, visit our fund portal, and you have the URL here. It'll also be in an email or other communications that we've sent you. Register to join the WeCree Capital Fund. You're not obligated to invest. You're just registering for the fund. You're actually reading through our primary PPM, which is an 89-page long document. It's the basics of any PPM, but for us, we want you to be familiar with it. After you are comfortable with that, then you'll get our deal disclosure specific to class A, B, or F. And that is only a 12 or 14-page document. And it has really the specifics of this deal, so that you know exactly what you're doing. And then the last part is to fund your investment. If you have any questions, please reach out to Margot or myself. We are more than happy to sit down with you on a Zoom. If you are local to one of us, then we're happy to meet you in person. But we are very excited about this deal, and we remain committed to it. And that's why we wanted to give you this quick due diligence update. And we really appreciate your attention. And if you have any questions, reach out to us.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.